Hi everyone, welcome to our panel today, and our topic is Black History Month. So it is Black History Month in the UK, and obviously our panel is very diverse, so not everyone is from the UK, so it will be interesting to hear what your thoughts are about Black History Month. So welcome panelists. So Black History Month is an annual observance that originated in the United States, where apparently it's also known as African American History Month. And it's received official recognition in America, and is also recognized in Canada, Ireland, Netherlands, and also in the UK. And in the UK, we celebrate it in October. So it's a way of people remembering the history of the African diaspora. And we'll talk about why is it important to remember the history of Africans in the diaspora, and also obviously in our countries of origin. So the first question I want to ask the panelists is, I know I've given a bit away, but do you guys understand the concept or know about Black History Month? Had you heard about it before, or is this something new?
It's new to me. I've not heard it before.
So it's new to you, Maggie?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Anyone else know what the whole concept is about, or had you heard about it before?
I've heard about it before from the US context, but to be honest, here in Denmark, we don't have anything like Black History Month because Black people have not, or rather, maybe we should dig and investigate if they've made any impact on Danish history.
I've heard of it before, but I never knew that the UK had a Black History Month. I always thought that if the US was celebrating it, then we were doing it, but I didn't know that we had our own in October. So that's new for me.
Oh, thanks, Jamila and Keshi.
I also knew about it, but I didn't know that it was celebrated in the UK. Because they only talk the people who mostly talk about it are people from the US. So I was a little bit surprised actually. I didn't know that in the UK was being celebrated, recognized anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else want to add something?
Oh, I did want to add something that I should have mentioned, that even if from what we know, basically what is taught in history in Denmark, we don't hear much about Black people, but Danes had a Danish slave trade where they also participated in the Atlantic slave trade, and they had countries like Danish West Indies where African people were taken there to work. So we do have many people in the West Indies who have a Danish history. They even have Danish names, but that is not, it may be taught in the history, but it's not really highlighted. So this is an interesting discussion for me.
Okay, thanks, Keshi, for giving us the Danish perspective. I know there's some people from Kenya, and obviously your history will be Black history. Actually tell us, is it Black history? Is that what you're taught, or do you learn a lot about Western history? I'm curious.
We are taught a lot about Western history. So I think Black history does not apply because every month is our Black History Month.
I like that. I love that. Every month, every day, is Black history. About that. So I just wanted to, maybe Gloria can give us a bit of history. We've just heard that this started in America, the Black History Month. So I don't know if Gloria wants to share with us about the UK and how we got to start celebrating Black History Month in the UK.
Yeah, so The first Black History Month started in the UK in October 1987. However, as previous people have said, the first Black History Month started in America and was created by a man named Carter Godwin Woodson, who was born in Virginia, and he's known as being the father of Black history. And this is because in 1926, at the time when segregation was present in the USA, he created a week called the Negro History Week, which this week started to grow in popularity as the years went on, and eventually, like with enough support from people enjoying the week, it became an official holiday. So, and then it changed from being a Negro History Week into a Black History Month because of the, you know, improvements in the rise of the Black Power movement in the 1960s. And then in Britain, during when Margaret Thatcher was ruling, and after the riots in Brixton, Tottenham, and Toxteth, Black people in Britain were fighting for acceptance and inclusion because they were facing racism and marginalization. And so Black people suffering from an identity crisis and looking for a sense of belonging in the UK is one of the reasons why a Ghanaian man who was a part of the Special Projects for London named Akiaba Adiba Sebo organized the first Black History Month in the UK on the 1st of October 1987 with the support of community activists and politicians. And then lastly, I just want to end with a quote from Carter. And he said, "If a race has no history, it has no worthwhile tradition. It becomes a negligible factor in the thought of the world, and it stands in danger of being exterminated."
Wow, Gloria, thank you so much for giving us a brief background about Black History Month. And that quote at the end just summarizes it all. So thank you for finding that quote. And I want to stress the reason why there's Black history for anyone watching and for anyone on the panel is because a lot of the time the history we learn about Black people in school is condensed into maybe one day in a week out of a curriculum, or maybe maximum 1 week. And it's usually about slavery and colonialism. So very negative parts of our history. But there are so many contributions that Black people have made across the world that are not spoken about. And that's why there's this Black History Month, to just sort of see look back on and forward and celebrate achievements of Black people and not just about slavery and colonialism. So thank you very much, Gloria, for giving us that background. Mila, did you have something you wanted to add to this session?
I was actually meant to speak about why it's important, like you just said. Well, me personally, I think it's important because we were never taught this in our education. I never had any lessons, actually, even about slavery and colonialism. I never even got any of that. So I think it's important for Black History Month to be here for Black people, but also for even white people and everyone else to learn about, because we are always told about their history but never taught about our own. So that's why I think it's very important.
Oh, thank you, Jamila. And very shocking to hear that some of those basics, even just colonialism and slavery, are not really taught in the curriculum, I suppose, until you take history as an elective, and that shouldn't be the case. These things should be taught as a basic to all students, so that history does not repeat itself. So thanks for that. So I'm just going to give a couple of quotes just to show how important this month is and that the government has recognized it in the UK. This is from the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, saying, for countless generations, people of African and Caribbean descent have been shaping our nation's history, making a huge difference to our national and cultural life and helping to make Britain a better place to be. It is this contribution of Black British people that I am proud to be celebrating Black History Month this October. And also there's loads of other people. If you want to go and look at the Black History Month page, loads of politicians and loads of public figures just talking about why Black History Month in October is so interesting. So we'll go on and talk about, give our own view on people who historically have made an impact to us. Who do you think is someone that has really made an impact? We want you to share this with us. We want to hear from people from all parts of the world, so that this is not just, I know it's UK's Black History Month, but this is a chance to just learn about Black people who contributed something. So I'm going to start with Keshi. Do you want to share with us who your historical figure is?
Actually, I just had a change of mind because I was planning to talk about Dedan Kimathi, a Kenyan freedom fighter who the British considered a terrorist, but actually he was very vital in the fight for freedom against colonialism in Kenya. And then we talked about Black history here in Denmark, and I did a Google search and came across a very interesting article about the first public monument to a Black woman. And I thought this would be interesting to talk about her. She was also a freedom fighter against Danish slavery in the West Indies. And I find this very interesting. So I'll just try to read quickly what it says about her. It says that this statue of this woman is entitled I Am Queen Mary, and it celebrates Mary Thomas, a 19th century rebel who led the largest labor revolt in Danish colonial history. And this monument can be found here in Denmark. And it says that this woman is known as the Queen of the Fireban for the role she played in the uprising of 1878, where these workers rebelled in the Danish colony of St. Croix, which is now part of the US Virgin Islands, because the conditions did not meaningfully improve after the abolition of slavery. And then this woman came to symbolize resistance, and they were later referred to as queens by the locals. And the reason why this statue is important, because the person who made this statue says that who we are as a society is largely about who we remember ourselves to be. This project is about challenging Denmark's collective memory and changing it. They claim that 98% of the statues in Denmark are of white men. So like the queens of the Fireban took action and fought against an oppressive colonial system, they are confronting present-day racism and Eurocentrism by claiming a space for our narratives. I think this is fantastic. I think that it's good that a woman like this can be acknowledged, because like we know, many people have collective amnesia, and many of these cases are not mentioned. Slavery is just something that happened in the past, but we do have heroines and we have heroes, and this woman was one of them.
Thank you very much, Keshi, for sharing that with us. I didn't know about this woman. It's very good to hear her part in terms of slavery. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was slavery, wasn't it?
It was after the abolition of slavery, and then now they felt that the conditions did not improve, so they were fighting for human rights and rebelling against the Danes, the Danish colony.
Yeah, so a woman and also a Black person, so very fitting for this month. And I'll also like to say quickly that a lot of the times when we hear about the end of slavery or the end of colonialism, we have white historical people put at the forefront about them bringing an end to these things. But we know that there were also Black people that were very active. We were not just passive in this end to slavery and colonialism. There were a lot of actors, Black activists fighting for our freedom. So thanks for telling us about this one connected to Danish slavery. Kiriko, you wanted to add something to it?
I'm agreeing with Keshi, because not too long ago, the Prime Minister of Denmark Mette Frederiksen actually said on national TV when they were talking about to make a long story short, she said that Black people, Africans, are not part of the Danish society. So in other words, she was talking about protecting Jewish people, but was totally disregarding the concept of protecting Africans in Denmark. So it just shows how people, as Keshi said, have a selective memory. And the thing is that she said that on national TV and she got away with it because people are still in denial up to today because Danish does have Black history that is totally ignored.
Yeah, Kiriko, thank you very much. I think that just underlines the point that was made earlier that if people do not have their own narratives, their narratives are not included in the space, then they can be erased. And that's what's happened there. Because that African history is not highlighted in Denmark, then the importance and value of African contributions to Danish culture are not acknowledged. And sadly, that's where Africans, as you say, have been erased from the picture and told they're not part of the Danish culture. Yes, Keshi?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that a senior researcher at the National Gallery of Art here in Denmark made a very interesting comment. He said, never before has a sculpture like this been erected on Danish soil. Now Denmark is offered a sculpture that addresses the past, but is also an artwork for the future. And that was a fantastic comment to make by Henrik Holm, a senior researcher at the National Gallery.
Oh yeah, thank you very much, Keshi. So definitely a historical figure to be highlighted in this session today. Okay, yes, Shamsa, you said you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to say that why it's important because sometimes in these countries people they do racism that these people are just burden on us. They are immigrants. They are coming from other countries. They are doing nothing. But when we saw their inventions, we saw their roles, we saw their contribution. So it is very important to celebrate this month so that the people can see, like in UK, USA, Ireland, Netherlands, or all over the Europe, they can see what they are just not burden or they are coming from other country, but they are contributed or they are contributing so much in these countries.
Thank you so much, Shamsa. You're right. And that's why there are many activists in the UK fighting for Black history to be taught in schools. Because if people at that level, where they're being socialized through education, learn of the contributions that Black people have made to the UK or to whatever country you are in the West, then there'll be a bit more respect. Otherwise, the attachment is just to slavery, colonialism, or criminality, and those are not positive things. And that's why Black history really should be taught in school. And of course, what we've said in the past is because Black people are sort of put at the lowest of this hierarchy, if Black history is taught, then other minority people's history will start being included as well. So that will be useful to everyone who's in a minority group. Thank you, Shamsa. And now, Shamsa, tell us, who is your historical figure that you want to talk about?
So my historical figure is Muhammad Ali Boxer. And he was very famous and a big figure in the world. So it's not about the countries that few people or few countries know him. He was known by all over the world. So he was a great boxer, social activist, philanthropist, and he was very generous. And he his nickname was the greatest. So you can imagine how great he was. So yeah, when he was born in 1942, his name was Clay, and as a child he was he was very active from the childhood, and he wants to do something. Then he started his field and everything. So he was not only boxer, he was a good fighter as well. He fought for the Vietnam War as well, so that he was in to a case from America. He was in jail for 5 years for his activities regarding human rights and everything. So he was very generous. He was doing charities and everything. Then he converted as into Islam. So in I think 1968 he converted to Islam, and then he got the name Muhammad Ali, and he was known by Muhammad Ali all over the world. So he was a great public figure, not only good human, but he was a nice, he was a great boxer as well. I just want to share one, his quote, because he
Yeah.
quotes are very famous. So I want to, share one quote of Muhammad Ali. So he said that we can't be brave without fears. So if we don't have any fear, we can't be that brave to achieve or to get something. So I'm doing the translation by my own. So I think if we don't have any fear, you can't do the things. So you need to face your fear. So
Yeah.
you forward, the thing bounce back, the word bounce back, then you will bounce back. So this is the one of the favorite quote of Muhammad Ali. So my favorite one is historical figure is Muhammad Ali.
Thank you very much, Shamsa, for sharing that. And like you said, a lot of people just know him as a boxer, but he was also an activist, philanthropist, and many other things. So thank you for giving us a little more insight behind the man, behind the boxer, and his contributions to Black history. I don't know if anyone wants to chip into what Shamsa has said about Muhammad Ali. I remember there was quite a few people that wanted to talk about Ali.
Okay, I was just thinking when Shams that mentioned Muhammad Ali. I thought it's interesting because I'm a fan of Muhammad Ali in the way that he was living at a time where there was a lot of racism against Black people. And as Shamsa said, he had to go to jail because he refused to fight in Vietnam because, as he himself said, there's no Vietnam person who had ever discriminated against him and called him the N-word. So he refused to go. And because of that, he was even, his medals were even taken away from him because of that. Point being that he was quietly, at a time when it was so segregated, he was fighting for the rights of all people, not just Black people, for the rights of all people to have equality. And he was a great fighter as well. You can watch his fights on YouTube.
Thank you, Jericho. Yeah, for giving us that insight as well. And what Shamsa said also about if you don't have fear, then how can you be brave? So he went and he knew that there would be a negative consequence to him saying, I don't want to be called that. Yeah, he must have known and he must have been fearful, but he still pushed on and stood up for himself and his rights and was brave. So that's something really inspirational and really a good historical figure to have on this session. All right, so we shall have Jamila next. Who's your historical figure?
So my historical figure has a lot to do with my teenage years. His name's Chuck Berry, and he's known as the father of rock and roll. And during my teenage years, I was into like rock and roll, but people tend to forget a lot what Black people have contributed, and he inspired a lot of people, like for example the Beatles and the Rolling Stones as well, and also people like Elvis. Even though people didn't consider his genre to be just rock and roll, Chuck Berry was also around the same time, and he embodied it more, but people saw Elvis Presley as the forefront of it when it was really Chuck Berry. So I just wanted to talk about him because when I liked rock and roll, I noticed a lot of the time, because I'd also found out a bit before that the inspiration from that came from Black people. And but all you see nowadays is non-Black people doing rock and roll, and that's what people know it to be. So I think it was very important to just, speak on him and how much he impacted rock and roll. Even people like the Beatles, like, who became so famous worldwide. Um, yeah, so I think that a lot of the time we are the ones who create stuff, and then it's taken away and we're forgotten about. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to.
Thank you very much, Jamila. Also just reminding us again why Black History Month is important, because then we can celebrate those achievements and remind ourselves of the contributions we've made. So Chuck Berry made a contribution to the cultural contribution, and he's connected to rock and roll as one of the founding fathers, or what you want to call it, of rock and roll, and influenced Elvis Presley, the Beatles, and so many other people that are rock and rollers or rockers, whatever.
Yeah.
Rock people. Thank you very much for sharing that, Jamila. Chuck Berry. Anyone want to say anything about what Jamila has said in terms of contributions to music and culture? Yes, Kirigo?
I was thinking it's nice Jamila came up with that point, because we know a lot of people, like you mentioned, Elvis Presley, for example, a lot of all these moves he had and the way he sang, well, it all came really from Black people, but that was at the time where they could not be recognized as being the originators of anything. So a lot of it was just simply taken and became some other people's cultural music or whatever, but it was actually, like Jamila pointed out, originally from Black people. So it's good that it's given the recognition it deserves.
Thank you, Kirigo. Okay, because of time, we'll just move on to Shiro. Who's your historical figure?
I was planning to talk about Nelson Mandela because he's my all-time favorite. He's a legend, he's an icon, and we all know so much about him. But I thought I should talk about Kofi Annan, the late Kofi Annan. Kofi Annan was also a Nobel Peace Prize winner and the first Black African to lead the United Nations. We have to actually acknowledge that the first African was the Egyptian Boutros Ghali, but Kofi Annan was the first Black African. He was very instrumental in trying to put an end to conflict in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. But for me personally, why I really, really appreciate Kofi Annan is because we know that elections in Africa are very often volatile. And in 2007, after the elections in Kenya, we came very close to a civil war. So many people were killed. It was actually such a horrible time. Different people came to Kenya, including Archbishop Tutu, including Condoleezza Rice, and all those people, and to try and bring peace. But it was Kofi Annan who managed to bring the two warring factions together. He put them together and made them talk, and they had to see how they were going to share power. For me, I feel he saved our country from disaster, actually. Kofi Annan was a true hero and a legend. Shamsa made me think it's good to have a quote, and the quote that I appreciate from Dr. Kofi Annan was, Literacy is a bridge from misery to hope. Education is very important, especially in Africa, because it's lack of education that makes it easy for the politicians to manipulate people, to be ready to fight for them after elections and die actually for nothing. So education is very important, and Kofi Annan talked a lot about education and tried to promote it in Africa.
Thank you, Shiro, for sharing such an inspirational figure in African politics. And also, I'm sure he was influenced by Nelson Mandela, who you also mentioned. So Kofi Annan and his efforts to bring people together and peace talks, during elections, because we know, like you said, how violent and volatile some elections in Africa can be. So thank you for telling us about his big contribution to making sure that things didn't explode into something that could have been much worse than it was. Does anyone want to say anything about Kofi Annan? Anyone want to chip in? Okay, all right. Okay, Maggie, yes?
I will just add that he's my hero. I still remember the 2007, we nearly went down to the drain. And when there were hardliners, like on both sides, there were hardliners, no one wanted to go down.
Yeah.
He was clever enough and brought the two leaders together without anybody in the picture. And the deal was signed and we were safe. I think he's my hero.
Thank you for that. And it's so good. The reason why I like these panels is we're not in one country, so we're all learning from each other different things because we're in different parts of the world. So I hope the viewers will appreciate. Okay, just say you're next. Who's your historical figure that you want to share?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about Nelson Mandela as well, but not in a big picture because obviously most of everyone knows about him and knows about what he fought for. But what people don't know actually is that Nelson Mandela helped the country Burundi, where I'm originally from. Even though I was born and raised in Rwanda, but I'm originally from Burundi. So Nelson Mandela helped Burundi to have peace. So the peace that the Burundi has now, after a long time experiencing the war, being in the war zone, Mandela has helped to bring peace in Burundi. So Mandela hosted the Burundi peace negotiation between the two ethnics which always fought. So that's what actually people don't know. A lot of people don't know that Mandela is also a hero of Burundian people. Yeah, and there is another superstar, Samuel L. Jackson. I just wanted to about him as well. I don't know if anyone knows that he made a very interesting documentary, which is called Enslaved, which airs every Sunday on BBC Two at 9 every Sunday. The documentary is called Enslaved. I started watching it 2 weeks ago, and I can't miss that documentary because it has taught me a lot. It has given me a lot of information that I didn't know. So if anyone can, I think it airs in UK on BBC Two at 9 p.m. It's very informative, really. So that's what I wanted to share about the Black History Month. Those are the historical men that I wanted to talk about today.
Thank you very much, Jose. As I said before, because we're from different countries, we're learning things all the time. I had no idea that Nelson Mandela was involved in Burundi and, bringing peace in Burundi between the two warring tribes. So thank you for sharing that with us. This just reminds us how inspirational these people you have all spoken about are, and that we can look to them to see how important activism is and standing up for what is right. And these two guys, they did it peacefully. It wasn't an aggressive approach. They just brought people together in peace, and they were able to make a change. Yes, I did. I have seen Enslaved. It's on my list to watch. I usually have a watch list, and I'm gonna watch Enslaved because I just love Samuel L. Jackson, just the way he speaks, and I'm sure he's made the subject very interesting. So guys, BBC, if you can, get it in your countries. BBC Two?
Oh, yes, 9 p.m. on Sunday.
Okay, 9 p.m. on Sunday. If you have BBC iPlayer, you can watch the previous episode, and it's called Enslaved. So thank you, Jose. Anyone want to say something about Jose's figures, Nelson Mandela and Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah, I want to say something about Nelson Mandela.
Thank you.
So I want to discuss about the Nelson Mandela's ideology. So which I am very fond of because I always believe in, equality. So he was believing equality as well. That's why his ideology was to, fostering and racial reconciliation. So his government focused on dismantling the legacy of apartheid by tackling institutionalized racism. So he was working on racism. So he served as a president of African National Congress from 19 to 97, and he did all this work, as you said, peacefully, and he fought for institutionalized racism. This is very important. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shamsa. What an inspiring man. Everyone around the world knows him. He stood up for what's right, was thrown in prison for it. It shows we have to make sacrifice sometimes, like Muhammad Ali as well. We have to make sacrifices if we want to stand up for what we believe in. It's not easy. It's never easy to make a change. It's very difficult. So be ready to make the sacrifice, to stand up for what is right, and use these people today as inspiration.